Today I'm reacting to your Survivor Series WarGames 2024 Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether they're good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you follow me on X because I ask for your hot take after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every WWE Premium Live event. And the next one is literally in like 2 weeks. It's Saturday night's main event, so make sure that you're following the X page so that you can submit your hot takes for that show as well. As always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring that bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm really confident that you're gonna fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And we're still in Colombia, and we're gonna be in Colombia on vacation in this room for like the next 3 weeks. And I've seen a couple of the comments. No, the cartel has not kidnapped me. I'm okay. I don't need to blink twice for help. By the way, don't forget to check out the Patreon if you want even more exclusive content that never gets uploaded to YouTube. Patreon.com/SantiZav, link in the description, link in the pinned comment. Let's read your stupid shit. Team Liv not winning was one of the worst booking decisions of the year. I know it's not that big of a deal in the long run, but it just makes the champions look weak, especially as they never stood tall on the weekly shows. I agree with you. I also think that this is one of the worst booking decisions of the year. I basically said as much in the review of the show that I uploaded because I ranted about the booking decisions for like 5 minutes. Funnily enough, when I uploaded that, I really thought that the majority of the comments were going to tell me to just let Triple H cook. But it seems that with this one, the majority of the people are in sync, and we all, for the most part, believe that the booking decision was amiss with this match. I thought from the beginning that it was just a bad idea to have so many singles accolades on one team, like both women's world champions and the Money in the Bank briefcase holder on one team, and I really didn't expect them to lose because it was just going to make all of those singles accolades feel less than. And here we are as the smoke has settled, and I think that we were right all along. I think that both women's world champions look as weak as they've ever looked, and Tiffany Stratton, frankly, has been booked like a complete dumbass, unfortunately, as the women's briefcase holder. Funnily enough, you kind of pointed out the only silver lining in this situation, in that it was that the champions were already not standing tall very often on weekly TV, so their stock as a protected champion was already low to begin with, that it couldn't really get much lower with this loss. That being said, it's a silver lining, but it's a very not good silver lining. I really believe that the heels should have won, or the heels should have created a really memorable moment like a potential cash-in, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on in this video. They should have had Io get the pin. She's Liv's next contender for the title. I think that it would have put a little fire behind their upcoming match. Is she Liv's real next contender? I really think it's just a stopgap. I really feel like it's just Rhea Ripley, and that's the only feud that WWE really seems to be giving any tender love and care to when it comes to the women's division. I mean, look, it would have been cool if Io got the pin, but let's not kid ourselves. Io is not the next true contender to the women's world title. She has a championship match, but again, she's just a stopgap for the inevitable match that WWE just continues to want to build to for months and months and months, which is Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan again. Bloodline WarGames was perfect. I agree with you. I thought that the Bloodline WarGames match was fantastic. I thought the addition of CM Punk was a genius way to elevate this match even more. I love the tension between CM Punk and Roman Reigns. I love the carnage, the chaos. It felt like after the smoke settled that like literal 2 countries went to war. It was awesome. I know that people are complaining about the end of the show, how dragged out the celebration was with everybody hitting their Fortnite emotes, thinking that somebody was going to interrupt and come out at the end. But that aside, I thought that the match was scripted perfectly, and the ending sequence was a literal chef's kiss, with Solo Sikoa getting obliterated by everyone on the babyface side. WWE giving Shinsuke a clean victory was quite a shock. I kind of saw it coming. At the same time, I didn't. Was more into the fact that the match will end up in a disqualification. With how short the feud was, and the fact that we have so many WWE premium shows over the next several months, I really thought that this was going to end in a disqualification. I thought that Shinsuke was going to stand tall, because if he didn't stand tall, like if he lost, I mean, this new character, as cool as it was, would have just been dead on arrival. But I also didn't think that they were going to take the title away from LA Knight after a what, like 3-week feud, a 3-week feud that didn't really have any promos between the two of them. So I was also shocked. It was not on my bingo card that Shinsuke Nakamura would win a singles title in the WWE in 2024. Yet here we are, and I'm happy about it. But yeah, I really thought that they were going, if they were going to do a title change, that it was going to be at, honestly, Saturday night's main event, just to give the feud more time to actually flourish. But yet here we are. Gunther versus Priest should have ended in a squash match because that would have made Gunther seem powerful again. The ending didn't convince me that he's back to his old self. Well, I do think that's what they were going for. I don't think that this is supposed to be the definitive Gunther is back, baby, the Terminator, the Ring General is back on your screens. I think that there is still supposed to be this aura of mystery, this aura of, is he back or is he not back? Did Finn Balor's interference affect Gunther's overall morale? And I think that it will, because this is not a definitive victory for Gunther, and what they've been doing for Gunther is giving him definitive victories to make his championship reign have absolutely zero questions about it. And now there is still a question about this championship reign, which I'm sure will probably get solved at Raw, Netflix, or even Saturday night's main event, probably with a triple threat. And that's where it probably makes the most sense for Gunther to come out looking strong. If you were to double stack pin them, that'd be pretty hype. Nakamura basically pulled a 15th seed win over a 2nd seed like in March Madness by beating LA Knight and fucked everyone's parlay. Dude, that's such an accurate representation. Funnily enough, in my parlay, I took Shinsuke Nakamura. What fucked my parlay was the heels losing women's war games, because again, who would have thought that that heel team would lose? It still just doesn't make any sense. Survivor Series was an awesome PLE with great matches, but the match of the night for me was the triple threat match for the Intercontinental title. For me, match of the night was still the Bloodline WarGames, but up to this point, it was the Intercontinental Championship match. I thought that it was a perfect match. It was brutal, chaotic. There were so many close finishes. The chemistry between all three of these guys was awesome. It was a reminder that Sheamus can still have banger after banger after banger. It was a solidification of how awesome Braun Breaker is. And frankly, I think this was the coming out party of Ludwig Kaiser, both from an in-ring perspective and both from his like in-ring psychology, his facial expressions, his laugh, his demeanor when he stopped Sheamus from winning the match was like something that you would expect out of a top heel in the WWE. I think that the ceiling for Ludwig Kaiser is so high right now, and this was, to me, the first glimpse of how high that ceiling truly is. It was way too soon to pull the trigger on Nakamura. Yes, this new character of his is interesting to see, but there's a lack of buildup with the Night feud, and I feel like it was a way just to give him the title. Here's the thing, like, you're not wrong, but you're also incredibly wrong. You're not wrong because in terms of like the encapsulated feud between Nakamura and LA Knight, it was absolutely way too quick. Like 3 weeks, barely any buildup. Like it was objectively just way too quick. But it wasn't too quick because we've also have been waiting for Shinsuke Nakamura to chase and finally win something of importance in the WWE. So it feels like we've been on this journey for a really long time for Shinsuke Nakamura, but the actual feud between the two, it was rushed, it was very fast, and it's the reason why I didn't actually fully expect Shinsuke Nakamura to walk out with the title. I did expect him to stand tall at the end of the match, but winning the title is crazy, but I'm here for this crazy. It's a good kind of crazy. Who knows why they took the title off LA Knight? Maybe they just want LA Knight chasing the title. Maybe this was a way to keep Shinsuke Nakamura in the WWE. Maybe they plan on moving LA Knight to Raw when it goes to Netflix. Who knows? There's literally like an infinite amount of reasons why it could have happened, but it's happened, and I'm good with it. I love Gunther versus Damian too. Finn interfering sets up Damian versus Finn part 2 at Saturday night's main event, even possibly a triple threat for the title. Finn is back in the world title picture. I love this match as well. I thought that the SummerSlam match was better. I thought that the interference of Finn Balor at SummerSlam was also significantly better and far more impactful than it was here, because it was the end of a faction, the end of a brotherhood, something that we didn't like properly thoroughly expect. Meanwhile, the interference of Finn Balor kind of came expected in this match. Now, you mentioned here that Finn Balor is back in the world title picture. Is he? You know, like we thought that after SummerSlam, we thought that he was going to get pushed to the moon, and he didn't. So my expectations for Finn Balor are honestly in the basement right now, but so were my expectations of Nakamura's booking, and yet here we are. I know everyone expected more with the ending, especially with it being dragged out so much, but I really love the men's War Games match. So many cool spots, the Uso splash, tsunami off the cage, Punk made a toolbox iconic. We even got Roman jumping off the top rope with a cross body. So yeah, like the latter half of your hot take here, I obviously agree with. I love the men's War Games match. It was so chaotic, so much fun, so many cool spots. Jacob Fatu looked like an absolute freak, and we got that tsunami off the top of the cage that we were expecting, even if it was just brutal on poor Bronson Reed. Dear God, that looked awful. Also, Jimmy apparently also broke his toe doing the Uso splash from the top of the cage, so it was just a car crash. One of the things that I want to talk about was how dragged out the finish was. Because it was, all right? They did like the show of respect. They all did their classic Fortnite emotes in the ring, and then they dragged it out, and then they did the same pose again. It was dragged out, and frankly, I think that they were playing with our expectations, and why wouldn't they, right? Because our expectations were through the roof, waiting for that trademark logo to appear as we wait for somebody's music to hit. I don't know, maybe Ryback was gonna come out, Curtis Axel, some other Paul Heyman guy, if you catch my drift. But it was all on purpose. They knew that we were expecting that. They dangled us with the worm on the fishing pole, and we followed along the whole time.
There you go.
Oh my God!
You see what I mean?
That was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, which is exclusively available on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're looking at the tag team classic that is DIY versus The Revival in a best 2 out of 3 falls at NXT TakeOver Toronto. We have a hardcore match between Shane McMahon and Steve Blackman at SummerSlam 2000. We've got real graps this week in the classic match between Bret Hart and Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10. We have a ridiculous match between Sabu and Rob Van Dam in a ladder match. And we're looking at Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania 39. You're gonna get this and so much more, like the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days early, the Raw reviews, the SmackDown reviews, the currently ongoing Undertaker Streak watch along, the currently ongoing Royal Rumble watch along, and more. So if you're doing the math, I actually upload more on Patreon than I do on YouTube, and those are videos that will never appear on YouTube. So go check it out. It's patreon.com/SantiZap. I'm confident that if you even try for 1 month, that you're absolutely going to fall in love with it. There's hundreds of videos already up and available for you to enjoy day one. So go check it out. The link will be in the description. The link will likely also be in the pinned comment, but that's it, folks. Let's get back to the video. The Women's War Games was booked horribly. There was almost no tension between Io, Bayley, and Bianca. Rhea pinned Liv again, even though Io is the #1 contender. Both champions got humiliated, and Tiffy didn't even cash in, even though Liv and Nia were both down. What the fuck? Yeah, I feel like this is a pretty good encapsulation of most people's complaint about the Women's War Games. I personally didn't have a problem with how slow the match was before everybody got in. A lot of people did. A lot of people feel like it was just way too botch filled. But look, when you have that many people in there in this wild stipulation, like it's just not going to be the cleanest match. I felt like the good of the physical aspects of the match definitely outweighed the mistakes that happened in the match. But there are a lot of people that didn't like the Women's War Games match, and whatever, it is what it is. We have a difference of opinion from what happened in an in-ring perspective, but we're all kind of in agreement in terms of the poor booking of this match. You kind of laid it out here. The fact that there was no tension, Io, Bayley, and Bianca in the same ring should want to murder one another, and they were working perfectly, beautifully. You know what's funny? CM Punk and Roman Reigns told the story of dissension and hatred between the two better than the 3 women that should have Like, it was a layup. It was a slam dunk for them, frankly. I don't personally have a problem with Rhea pinning Liv because at the end of the day, I think she's the real contender, not Io Sky, as much as I do love Io Sky. But yeah, the handling of the cash-in, like, it's just so stupid. Like, I don't understand what's going on with Triple H's booking of the Money in the Bank briefcase holder. It's like he hates the Money in the Bank, frankly, because everyone that holds that Money in the Bank just looks like a complete doofus every single time that they try to cash this in. Sure, Triple H landed the plane with Damian Priest's cash in at WrestleMania, but his entire time as Senior Money in the Bank was ludicrously bad, and they're doing it with Tiffany Stratton. And what's going to happen is that her cash-in is probably going to be amazing, and you're going to have people coming out of the woods saying, see, you should have let Triple H cook, Papa H cook. Dude, enough with that. The cooking, like, sometimes the process to getting there is bad, and we should be able to call it out without just being told mindlessly to let Triple H cook. Hopefully, Balor costing Priest actually means Finn Balor is getting some sort of a push. Hopefully, but as I said earlier, I have absolutely no hope that that's going to be the case based on what happened at SummerSlam. The SummerSlam spot for Finn Balor was like 50 times more talk-worthy, 50 times more impactful, and they didn't do shit with it. What makes us think that they're gonna do anything with this? I hope that they do, but you gotta understand that this is the reason why our expectations are so low right now for Finn Balor. I wanna be wrong. Trust me, I do. I want to see Finn Balor do some big things. I want to see him win a world title, for God's sakes. I love Finn Balor, but I have no reason to believe or trust that he's going to. Survivor Series felt sort of lackluster. No cash-in, no return. Title matches felt either rushed or just filler. High spots in War Games were fun, but still more questions than answers. Well, I feel like the complaint maybe lies towards the War Games matches because I felt like the filler that you're mentioning wasn't filler. I felt like the IC title match was totally like justifiably amazing, and it definitely elevated a lot of things. Shinsuke Nakamura is a new champion, and it continued to further the story between Damian Priest and Gunther. The women's match, to me, that's a dead-end booking, and unfortunately, I don't see how it's not. But the men's War Games match, I think, is going to be memorable because of the team up between Roman Reigns and CM Punk. So I would be inclined to agree with your hot take here if it was just about the women's War Games, because it's not going to go down in history as a great War Games match. It's going to be a forgettable one. It's not going to be one that we talk about as early as like next week. LA Knight's run as US champ was so cool and fun. I'm going to miss it so much, but I'm excited to see what they do with Shinsuke. Dude, thank you for saying that. So many people in my Twitch chat were saying that this was a failed run by LA Knight, that his championship reign was boring, that they were happy that they took the title off LA Knight, who was holding it hostage, which like makes no sense to me considering this dude defended it like 30,000 more times than Logan Paul ever did in his nearly 1-year reign. I thought LA Knight was a great United States champion. I think the only problem with his reign is that he didn't really have that marquee, super memorable feud with the championship, sadly. But aside from that, I felt like he was a great United States champion. This year's men's War Games match cleared the women's. And I feel like that breaks the 2-year streak of the women having the better, like objectively better gimmick match, because it's just been the case that whether it's Royal Rumble, War Games, or Elimination Chamber, or Money in the Bank, the women have stole the show, and not this year. The men's was better. Jimmy Uso carried the War Games match. I was really impressed every time the spotlight was on him. Dude, me too. Who had him doing a whisper in the wind like Jeff Hardy in their bingo card? Because I sure as shit did not. In the splash off the top, but it wasn't just like the big spots. Like, this dude was just really good at getting his ass kicked. He was really good at like advancing narratives in the ring as well. Like, Jimmy really was a treat in this match. I feel like the show needed a quote big moment. Tiffy cashing in, Rock returning, just something to get everyone talking. I think the big moment, and it is a big moment, like, let's not sugarcoat it. The big moment was Roman Reigns and CM Punk being together. That is a huge, monumental moment that isn't getting enough love because it's getting overshadowed by the expectations that people had of last year's Survivor Series War Games finish. You gotta understand, folks, that what happened at the end of last year's Survivor Series War Games is once in a lifetime. Like, I hear voices in the air type of once in a lifetime. The return of somebody that big, that like far out from their last time in the WWE is not something that happens every day. So if your expectations were for WWE to hit the note on something like that, then you were setting yourself up for failure. I agree, a cash-in would have made the women's War Games match, which is a very forgettable match at this point, into an incredibly unforgettable moment. But I think that the show did have its big moment with CM Punk and Roman Reigns. Bronson Reed showed that he deserves his spot in the card tonight. He did that tsunami for the love of the game. Hope he's all good. Future champion in 2025. I hope that he's not like relegated to actually being a Bloodline member. I would love for him to go back on his own. This little hired gun shtick with the Bloodline was great for one PLE cycle, but Bronson Reed is a star, and if he were to just be another dude in the Bloodline, I think that he's going to get lost in the shuffle. He was great in this match. I think that he's ready for the main event. Clearly, he demonstrated that in the lead up to this, in the match, and everything else that he's been doing since SummerSlam, but I'd rather him out of the Bloodline. His whole entrance was so cool. His gear was so cool. I absolutely love Shinsuke's new character. Fellas, Shinsuke Nakamura stocks are through the freaking roof. And again, it just sort of feels like we're in an alternate timeline. Like I just didn't think that there was a timeline that existed where WWE actually treated Shinsuke Nakamura with tender love and care. And fellas, we're living in it. It's not an alternate dimension. It's our current reality. Big deal that Jay came out last, even though he was the first in the cage. In story, it shows that Roman is comfortable with sharing the spotlight. In real life, it shows that WWE believes in main event Jey Uso being the massive star he is. I like that you mentioned this. Not a lot of people wrote in about this. Something that I said during the live stream was the fact that Jey Uso got to come out and have his own entrance after CM Punk and Roman freaking Reigns should be an indicator that WWE has a lot of faith in this dude, like world title, undisputed champion types of levels of faith. So I wouldn't be surprised if 2025, based on how I saw them treating Jey Uso just on this entrance like order alone, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a world champion in 2025. Roman Reigns and CM Punk drama was built perfectly. I'm glad that they didn't do buddies and buddies stuff and instead creating real tension between the two and eventually set up their future SummerSlam match. The dynamic between CM Punk and Roman Reigns was by far the best part of this entire show, in my opinion. It was so good. We talked about this show not having a memorable moment. I disagree. I think that this right here is the memorable moment. I think that this is the moment that we're going to be calling back to over the next several months as it shapes up WWE narrative and storytelling for both CM Punk and Roman Reigns, and that favor that Paul Heyman owes CM Punk. We still don't know what that favor is, but here we are still talking about it. I thought that the tension and the eventual, hey, let's just put our differences aside and work together, to then CM Punk straight up saving Roman Reigns from certain death, and then the show of respect at the end. I thought that it was a great full circle narrative in that match. I thought that it was handled perfectly. The triple threat Intercontinental Championship match was a 10 out of 10. The in-ring chemistry was spectacular, and I was on the edge of my seat until the very end. Anyone could have won it and I'd still be satisfied. It's that last little bit that you said at the end, that last little bit, because so many people wrote in that the Intercontinental Championship match was amazing, yada, yada, yada. We all know this, but I love what you said here. Anyone could have won it and I'd still be satisfied. That is the sign of a great triple threat match. That is a sign of three guys that have earned their keep. That is a sign that everybody is over in that match in some way, shape, or form as a babyface or as a heel. And I think that just goes to show how healthy the Intercontinental Championship picture is going to be for the foreseeable future, when right now you have three guys that if you were to pull the trigger on them to become the new IC champion, everybody would probably go, that's sick. Great choice. Very solid show, and I'm glad that Tiffy trying to cash in is what cost them the match, protecting the two champions, in my opinion. Great show with a lot of seeds of future stories. I don't know, dude. I feel like we watched a different show. Tiffy's cash in is what cost them the match, and it protected the two champions. No, this absolutely nuked the two champions. We disagree here. It's been 2 years in a row that both War Games matches have been won by the babyface team. It's getting a bit underwhelming that the Avengers always get the win. I get what you're saying, but I think the reason why it works is because Survivor Series War Games, at the very least for one of the matches, has been a culmination of storytelling for several months where they create a big bad, right? Like last year's women's War Games, it worked because the big bad was Damage Control running shop across the women's division in WWE. And this year it worked because we have Solo Sikoa and his bloodline running shop on Friday Night SmackDown. So It works because it's a culmination of several months of building the big bad to eventually that big bad getting toppled down, which is why I think it's normal to see the Avengers, the baby faces, win in this scenario, because Survivor Series War Games is kind of seen like the culmination of all of fall storytelling post SummerSlam. Women's War Games, disaster. Men's War Games, fantastic. Story matters. I love what you said there at the end. Story really does matter. I feel like maybe we'd be seeing the Women's War Games match a bit more favorably if there was an actual like cohesive story that was told leading into the match or even in the match, but there was none of that. This truly and unfortunately was a War Games match for the sake of having a War Games match. Man, they dragged the ending so much that I thought CM Punk was returning again. This hot take made me laugh when I originally read it, so I wanted to share with you. The Women's War Games match was the match of the night and is contender for match of the year. I disagree with you, and I'm really only including this so that you can all see that there's really two sides to every story. What some people hate, some people love. What some people love, some people hate. Tiffany and these fake cash-ins are annoying. They've had so many chances to give us a unique scenario and they fumbled. So I've already talked at length at how stupid they're making Tiffany Stratton out to be, but I like what you mentioned here. They really did miss an opportunity to create a unique scenario and situation with the cash-in back-to-back months, all right? Crown Jewel and Survivor Series War Games would have both created first-time events for the Money in the Bank case, something that I think that it desperately needs, because we've seen the Money in the Bank briefcase basically in almost every single scenario, and they had an opportunity in back-to-back PLEs to finally put that briefcase and the briefcase holder in a cash-in position that we've never seen before, which would have had us glued to our seats, and I just don't think that they're going to be able to get that chance again. A full PLE pre and post show with no Dom Dom. Triple H has us on some kind of punishment. We're what? Nearly like 25 going on to 30 minutes into this video, and none of you mentioned the lack of Dominic Mysterio. I'm disappointed in you. I'm glad that Samantha stepped up and sent this in, because we can't be quiet about this. Dominic Mysterio being left off from our screens is a travesty. All right, folks, thank you so much for submitting in your Survivor Series 2024 hot takes. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm done. Get out of here.